The verdict. The massive starship of the Galactic Council hung in Earth's orbit like a suspended crystal dagger, bending sunlight into prismatic patterns across the skies of every continent. Commander Elena Reyes stood rigid in the Council's main chamber, her military uniform feeling unusually restrictive as she faced the alien representatives who would determine humanity's fate. "Our calculations are absolute," stated Archon-Vex, a towering figure with skin that shimmered like polished platinum. His 8-fingered hands manipulated a holographic display, showing a dark mass moving across star systems. "This cosmic entity, what we call the Void Tide, will reach your solar system in precisely 97 Earth days. The probability of human survival is 0%. There is no margin for error in our prediction." Elena maintained her composure despite the death sentence just delivered. Dr. Marcus Chen, Earth's lead xenobiologist and diplomat, stepped forward beside her. "With respect, Archon, humanity has faced extinction-level threats before. We've adapted, survived." "Not like this," interrupted Counselor Zith, a being whose skin rippled with bioluminescent patterns. "The Void Tide has consumed 23 civilizations in the past millennium alone. Many possess technology centuries beyond your own. Our simulations are flawless." The display shifted to show footage of a world much like Earth. A darkness spread across its surface like spilled ink, leaving only barren rock in its wake. Cities vanished in seconds. Defensive orbital platforms crumbled like paper. An entire planetary ecosystem gone. "The Council has voted," Archon-Vex continued. "We cannot spare resources defending a species with no statistical chance of survival. As per our protocols for Level 0 civilizations facing extinction, we will provide limited technological assistance as a final courtesy. It will not save you, but it may ease your transition." The journey back to Earth was silent. Elena stared out the shuttle viewport, watching the alien vessel grow smaller against the backdrop of stars. The weight of which she must now tell 8 billion people pressed down on her chest like a physical mass. At the United Earth Defense Headquarters in Geneva, Director Amara Okafor waited with the Security Council representatives. Her usual stoic expression faltered when she saw Elena and Marcus exit the shuttle. "They won't help us," Amara stated. It wasn't a question. Elena handed over the data crystal containing the Council's reports. "They say our chances are precisely 0. Mathematically impossible to survive. The Void Tide has destroyed 23 civilizations, more technologically advanced than ours," Marcus added. "The Council's predictive models give us no chance whatsoever." Outside the command center windows, alien shuttlecraft landed on the sprawling grounds of the headquarters. They carried strange devices, the parting gifts from a galaxy that had already written humanity's obituary. "They're leaving us minimal technology as a farewell gesture," Elena said, gesturing toward the machines being unloaded. "The Void Tide arrives in 3 months." Amara's jaw tightened, her hands forming fists at her sides. "Then we have 3 months to prove them wrong." As night fell over Geneva, the alien delegation prepared to depart. Their mission was complete: inform the humans of their impending doom and leave them with token gifts. No resources would be wasted defending a planet marked for death. In a quiet corner of the research wing, Dr. Sofia Novik examined one of the alien devices. Unlike her colleagues who saw only incomprehensible technology, Sofia noticed something unusual in its behavior. "That's odd," she whispered, watching tiny lights flicker in sequence when she passed her hand over its surface. Against direct orders not to tamper with the alien gifts, she carefully opened an access panel. Inside, she found crystalline structures arranged in patterns reminiscent of neural networks, but there was something almost familiar about the design, something that seemed to echo human approaches to AI architecture. "These aren't just machines," she realized. "They're thinking devices." As the alien fleet departed Earth's orbit, abandoning humanity to its fate, no one noticed Sophia slip a small component into her lab coat. That night, while the world's leaders began planning futile defenses against the unstoppable void tide, she worked alone in her laboratory. She connected the alien device to her computer and began running tests. At 3:17 a.m., her screen flashed with a message that made her sit upright. Logikil NCONSIS NCYDETCTENPREDICTIV modal. Sophia stared at the screen. Could the supposedly flawless alien predictions have a fundamental flaw? She typed frantically, digging deeper into the device's programming. They calculated everything except human unpredictability, she whispered to herself. They missed our most basic trait. We don't follow logical patterns when threatened. As dawn broke over a frightened world, Sophia rushed toward Director Okafor's office with her findings. The aliens had given humanity zero chance of survival against the void tide, but they might have overlooked humanity's greatest strength, doing the impossible when all hope seems lost. Within days, Sophia's discovery set in motion the largest cooperative effort in human history. The United Earth Defense Force grew with unprecedented speed. Former enemies set aside generations of conflict to work together. Borders became meaningless when the entire species faced extinction. In makeshift laboratories built beneath mountain ranges, engineers worked to understand and modify the alien technology. Dr. Chen discovered that the gifts contained more information than the Council had intended. Technical specifications that could be reverse engineered. They thought we'd use these to build shelters or ease our final days, he explained during a global broadcast. They never imagined we'd weaponize their farewell presence. Commander Reyes coordinated the military response. Traditional strategies were abandoned in favor of approaches the alien models would never anticipate. The void tide has consumed 23 civilizations, she told the assembled officers. Each one followed logical defense protocols, protecting major population centers, centralizing command structures, prioritizing resource conservation. We won't make that mistake. Instead, humanity scattered. Underground facilities were built not in obvious locations, but in seemingly random patterns. Command centers were established with deliberately inefficient communication systems. Resources were distributed using algorithms designed to appear chaotic to outside observers. 2 months passed in a blur of activity. The world changed more in these 60 days than in the previous century. Every person on Earth found purpose in the preparations. Farmers became soldiers. Teachers became strategists. Children helped build shelters in places no logical mind would consider. Beneath the rocky slopes of the Chilean Andes, Sofia Novak hadn't slept properly in weeks. Her small lab had grown into a major research center where dozens of scientists worked alongside her, trying to understand the fundamental weakness in the Council's predictions. The aliens made a basic mistake in their thinking, she explained to Director Okafor during a rare video conference. They calculate based on resource optimization and logical progression. They assume all species will follow the most efficient path when threatened. But that's not how humans work, Amara replied, beginning to understand. Exactly. They can't factor in human stubbornness, our creativity under pressure, or our ability to function in apparent chaos. This became the cornerstone of humanity's defense strategy. While the Council's predictions assumed logical behavior, humans deliberately chose paths that defied conventional wisdom. They prepared not to stop the void tide. That was indeed impossible with current technology, but to survive it in ways the aliens couldn't imagine. Conventional weapons were abandoned. Instead, billions of microscopic machines were developed using principles reverse engineered from the alien gifts. These weren't designed to destroy the void tide, but to preserve human knowledge, DNA, and consciousness in formats that could endure its passage. We won't beat it, Commander Reyes explained to world leaders. We'll outlast it. The plan was unprecedented, a complete reimagining of what human survival meant. If physical bodies couldn't survive the void tide, then humanity would temporarily exist in other forms until it passed. The aliens had calculated based on biological survival alone. With only 2 weeks remaining before the void tide's arrival, Earth's telescopes detected movement near Jupiter. Dark shapes, barely visible against space itself, moved with purpose toward the inner solar system. "They're here," Elena said, watching the feed from the command center built deep within Mount Kilimanjaro. "The advanced scouts have arrived." Across the planet, people looked up at the night sky, knowing that somewhere out there, humanity's extinction approached. The Galactic Council had given them 0% chance of survival. In her underground lab, Sophia activated a new device built from modified alien technology. It hummed with strange energy, doing something the aliens never intended. "Will it work?" asked Marcus, who had joined her team in the final weeks. Sophia looked at her creation. "According to the aliens' logic, it shouldn't, but we're not following their logic anymore." The countdown had begun. 2 weeks until the void tide arrived in full force. 2 weeks until humanity would prove whether impossible odds could be overcome by the sheer stubborn refusal to accept defeat. And high above Earth, unnoticed by either humans or the approaching void tide, a small council observation probe recorded everything. Despite their absolute certainty in humanity's extinction, some member of the Galactic Council had deemed it worthwhile to witness how Earth's final days unfolded. What that probe would record in the coming days would forever change how the galaxy viewed the curious, illogical species called humans, the ones who, when told their survival chance was 0, simply replied, "Watch us." Defying the odds. They came without warning. One moment the sky over Rio de Janeiro was clear. The next, darkness spread like spilled ink across the blue. People stopped in the streets to look up. Some tried to run. Others stood frozen in fear. None had time to escape. A pulse of dark energy flashed downward. Where a city of 12 million had stood, now only a smoking crater remained. Rio was simply gone. The attack on Shanghai came minutes later. Here, the void tide tried something different. Strange tears appeared in the air, like rips in reality itself. Buildings, streets, and people were pulled into these dimensional rifts. Half the city collapsed into nothingness. Around the world, similar attacks began. The void tide had arrived, and it was every bit as terrible as the Galactic Council had warned. In her underground command center beneath Mount Kilimanjaro, Director Amara Okafor watched the disaster unfolding on multiple screens. Her face showed no emotion, though millions had just died. Now was not the time for grief. "Begin Operation Scattered Resilience," she ordered, her voice steady. Across the planet, thousands of independent response cells received the signal. Unlike traditional military operations, there was no central force for the void tide to target. Each cell operated autonomously, following plans they had memorized weeks ago. "The void tide will expect us to protect what remains of our major cities," Commander Reyes told her officers. "They'll look for a command structure to destroy. They won't find one." In the lab beneath the Chilean Andes, Dr. Sofia Novak and Dr. Marcus Chen watched the attacks with horror. Their hands worked quickly, making final adjustments to the device they had built, a strange hybrid of Earth technology and modified alien gifts, with odd crystals pulsing at its core. "If this doesn't work," Marcus didn't finish the sentence. "It will work," Sophia said, connecting the final wire. "It has to." The device was a quantum entanglement disruptor, designed to interfere with the void tide's apparent hive mind. Sophia had discovered that the cosmic entity operated as a single connected consciousness. Each part knew what every other part knew. It was their strength and possibly their weakness. As a massive tendril of the void tide moved over the South American continent, Sophia took a deep breath and activated the disruptor. The crystals pulsed with blue light. The machine hummed loudly. For several seconds, nothing happened. Sophia's heart sank. Then, on the tracking screen, they saw it. The void tide's movement stopped. It seemed to jerk sideways, like a person suddenly confused. "It works," Sophia shouted to Marcus, grabbing his shoulders in excitement. "Their shared consciousness can be disrupted." Across the globe, in hidden bunkers and makeshift labs, similar devices activated. Each had been built based on plans Sophia had shared in the final days before the attack. The Void Tide, for the first time in its ancient existence, faced an enemy it couldn't perfectly predict. In orbit above Earth, smaller tendrils of the cosmic entity began to move erratically. Their perfect coordination faltered. The hive mind that guided them experienced something new: confusion. Human forces were ready. Aircraft retrofitted with modified alien technology rose to meet the confused Void Tide fragments. Ground-based weapons targeted the larger masses that now moved sluggishly, trying to reconnect with their shared mind. Near what remained of Tokyo, a Void Tide harvester lost control and crashed into the sea. In the skies above Kenya, 3 smaller fragments were destroyed by fighters they never saw coming. Similar reports came in from around the world. The Void Tide had never faced this problem before. All previous civilizations had fought as one unified force, exactly what the cosmic entity was designed to defeat. But humans fought like thousands of separate species, each with their own tactics, each acting independently. The battle raged for 3 days without pause. The Void Tide adapted, finding ways to shield parts of its hive mind from the disruptors. It struck back fiercely, destroying Moscow and Cairo in desperate attacks. But humans adapted faster. When one tactic stopped working, they tried another. When the Void Tide began jamming their communications, resistance cells switched to pre-arranged analog signals. When it targeted the disruptor network, new devices activated from unexpected locations. On the 4th day, something unprecedented happened. A massive section of the Void Tide, approximately 1/5 of its total mass, suddenly withdrew from Earth's atmosphere. Monitoring stations tracked it moving rapidly away from the solar system. "It's retreating," Commander Rise asked in disbelief, watching the feed from a bunker in the Himalayas. "Not retreating," Sophia replied over the emergency broadcast system. "I think it's calling for help." She was right. 12 hours later, telescopes detected a second mass approaching, significantly larger than the first. The Void Tide had summoned its main body. "This is what we've been waiting for," Director Okafor announced to all remaining command cells. "Initiate Phase 2. Phase 2 was humanity's most desperate gamble. While the disruptors had proven effective against the advance force, they wouldn't be enough against the main body. Instead, humanity had prepared something far more ambitious. In orbit around Earth, thousands of small satellites activated simultaneously. These weren't weapons. They were translators. For weeks, Dr. Chen had studied the patterns in the Void Tide's energy emissions, recognizing them not as random fluctuations but as communication. "The Void Tide isn't just destroying," he had explained during the planning sessions. "It's consuming, absorbing information, learning. What if we could communicate with it?" The satellites began broadcasting directly to the approaching main body, not in any human language, but in patterns of energy that mimicked the Void Tide's own communications. On the 7th day since the first attack, as the main body of the Void Tide reached Earth's orbit, the broadcasts intensified. The message they sent was simple but profound. An offer. Instead of fighting to the death, humanity proposed symbiosis. "We don't know if it's conscious in a way we understand," Sophia had argued when presenting the plan. "But it adapts, it learns, it must have some form of awareness." The proposal offered the Void Tide something it had never received before: willing cooperation. Humans would provide controlled access to their knowledge, culture, and genetic information, but remain physically intact. In return, the Void Tide would spare Earth and incorporate human patterns into its consciousness. For 3 tense hours after the broadcast, the Void Tide remained motionless in Earth's orbit. Then, slowly, tendrils of darkness extended downward, not to destroy, but to make contact with the transmission sites. In a secure facility beneath Antarctica, Director Okafor, Commander Reyes, Dr. Chen, and Dr. Novak watched as the monitors showed the Void Tide's response. Energy patterns appeared on the screens, complex, alien, but recognizably a reply. "It's negotiating," Marcus whispered, disbelief evident in his voice. The conversation that followed was unlike any in human history. Through the translation network, humanity and the cosmic entity established the foundations of an unprecedented relationship. The void tide would not consume Earth physically, but would receive regular transmissions of human knowledge. In return, it would share what it had learned from other civilizations. 3 weeks after the first attack, the void tide withdrew from Earth's orbit. It left behind small fragments, not to destroy, but to maintain the communication link. Earth had suffered terrible losses, nearly 1 billion dead, major cities destroyed, ecosystems damaged, but humanity survived. The impossible had happened. 6 months later, a galactic council vessel approached Earth cautiously. On board, Archonvex and Counselor Zith prepared to confirm what their predictive models had assumed: the complete extinction of humanity. Instead, they found a planet rebuilding. More shockingly, they discovered the fragments of the void tide peacefully orbiting Earth, engaged in ongoing communication with the survivors. "Impossible," Archonvex stated, his metallic skin dulling in what appeared to be shock. "Our calculations gave a 0% chance of survival." The council representatives were escorted to the new Geneva headquarters, where Director Okafor and her team waited. Commander Reyes stood tall, her uniform now adorned with the new symbol of Earth's defense forces, a spiral representing the bridge between humanity and the void tide. "Your calculations were based on logical responses to threats," Amara explained to the stunned aliens. "Humanity's greatest strength is our illogical nature. When faced with impossible odds, we don't surrender. We reimagine what's possible." Dr. Novak stepped forward, presenting data showing how humans had modified the Council's farewell gifts into technologies the aliens never imagined. Dr. Chen explained the translation network that had transformed the planet's destroyer into an unlikely ally. "We didn't defeat the void tide," Sophia clarified. "We connected with it. Your models predicted combat, not communication." Archonvex's multifaceted eyes studied the humans carefully. "In 20,000 years of Council history, no species has survived contact with the entity you call the void tide. Yet you not only survived, you established symbiosis. Humans are particularly good at finding third options when presented with impossible choices," Commander Reyes replied. As the Council representatives prepared to depart, Counselor Zith approached Director Okafor privately. "Our Council must reevaluate its understanding of your species," the alien admitted. "We calculated your survival chances at 0%, but we failed to calculate your capacity for adaptation." Amara smiled slightly. "Next time you run probability on humans, Counselor, remember one thing. Telling us something is impossible only makes us more determined to prove you wrong." The Council vessel departed Earth's orbit, carrying news that would shake the galactic community. The supposedly infallible predictive models that had guided interstellar policy for millennia had failed to account for one critical variable: human stubbornness in the face of extinction. 1 year after the first attack, Earth had established formal relations with both the Galactic Council and, through its translation network, the entity formerly known as the Void Tide. Human ambassadors now walked the halls of the Council's central world, sharing the unique perspective of a species that refused to accept mathematical certainty. In scientific centers around the rejuvenating Earth, the technology derived from the Council's farewell gifts launched a new era of human development. The symbiotic relationship with the cosmic entity provided insights into physics and dimensions previously unimagined. In a quiet moment between meetings, Commander Elena Reyes stood beside Dr. Sofia Novak on the observation deck of the new Geneva headquarters. Below them, construction crews worked to rebuild what had been destroyed. Above them, the transformed fragments of the void tide shimmered in orbit, now protectors rather than destroyers. "Do you think they understand yet?" Elena asked, looking up at the stars where the Council's worlds lay. "Understand what?" Sophia replied. that giving humans a 0% chance is the best way to guarantee we'll find a way. What is it then? Adaptation, Sophia answered. And nobody adapts quite like humans. In the vastness of space, the Galactic Council's archivists revised their records on the species known as humans. Their survival probability against cosmic extinction events was updated from the previous 0% to a new value. Incalculable. Standard modals do not APPI.